Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and this is the Raging Verbalist number 78. For all of you who've just gotten here, you're in for a believe a treat. It's my personal opinions because I have something to say about everything, and we kind of stay away from politics. Hopefully, you'll have some fun. You learn some things. There's some entrepreneurial things, business things, personal things, on and on. And as always, we have the lovely Sandra. Sandra will, in fact, be in your place asking the questions that may be probing your mind and needing to get out. Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And Sandra is in a particularly kind of joyous mood for some reason.
Because it's Raging Verbalist. Come on.
Because it's raging. There she goes. Look at that. Yep. Does she have a review coming up soon? Who knows? So, also, if you want to go check us out, go to, Position to Win book group on Facebook. You can go to the positiontowin.com website. You can go buy the books. You can go do some things and find out some more stuff. All right. So, Sandra, let's dive into our topic for today. Give it to me. I'm ready.
Yeah, so I saw the topic for the week. So what's going on with business banking?
So for those of you who were not here last week, and what was your excuse? But if you were not here on the previous one, I celebrated my 48th business birthday. And that meant I got a business account years ago. And so I said, man, I have just gone through some pain and agony of establishing on a new venture I'm in a business account. So that is why we're talking about this today. So I'll tell you what's going on with business banking. It sucks. It's really hard. By the way, if you're out there and you're, just have a gig deal or you have a side something and now you want to go pro, turn pro, I would suggest that you always separate your money, by the way, between the business and your personal life. So I always like to have these things called bank accounts. I mean, duh. I don't want to ever be that. I'll tell you a quick story. Had a guy who was working for me, and it turned out, and he was doing a pretty good job of working, and it turned out that he didn't have really a lot of banking going on, and he was like a 1099 gig guy, and we got one of our checks back from the because he had gone and cashed it, and he was cashing it like at Joey's Liquor Mart and endorsing it over to them. And the last thing I wanted to have him do is to take my business check and then hand it to a guy who's cashing it, while he's getting some Colt 45 and some Slim Jims and a lottery ticket or something. So I said, listen, we got to come up with a better way to pay you because I just do not want to feel comfortable about these guys, doing this. And he goes, well, he only charges me 2%. And I'm like, So, all right. So business banking is really in a crazy state. And that's what we're going to be talking about today and what I have found out and discovered, because usually you find these things out not by reading the Wall Street Journal, because again, the Wall Street Journal has great business stuff, but they don't talk about these kinds of things. Also, if any of you, and I'm going to veer off into politics for a second, any of you believe that there's any political party whatsoever or politicians or people who are in office that actually understand what it's like to be a small business, you are out of your mind, because they have no clue of what it takes to be a small business. When I meet people who say, oh yeah, this guy had a business. And now every time I meet somebody and I say, well, okay, here's a small business problem, they have no clue what I'm talking about. So that's what we're talking about today. It is a dumpster fire. It is a cluster. It is a shitstorm. And we'll talk about it today. Okay, next question. I had to just kind of get my bile biling. I don't know if it's
Tell us how you really feel.
Exactly.
All right. So how does that compare to when you first opened your account years ago?
So I'm 15 years old. I can't drive. I wanted to, but they said there's a law. And I go to open up my first business account. And yes, my mother went with me, but she told the banker her name was never going to be on that account because it was my responsibility. And at the time, I had 3 forms of ID. Ready? I had a school card that says this is the school I went to. I had a bus pass, which said that I was a student so I could get a better deal on the bus because my mother didn't drive. I actually had to take public transportation. And I had a library card. That was the entire extent of my ability to prove who I was. And the guy looked at it and told me, well, this is what you need. You need this much money. You have to be this tall to ride this ride. And I gave him the money and I signed it. And he said, two things I don't want you to ever do. One is never overdraft this account because we will come down and beat you with a stick. He said it nicer. And number two is I'm going to teach you a very valuable lesson, which is you should balance your checkbook every month. I did the first one. I didn't realize how important that balancing thing was until later on in my life. And yes, I did learn a valuable lesson from it. So in those days, it was show up. You are who you say you are. Get an account, give them some money. They gave you enough rope, if you will, to go out and do what you needed to do. And I'll never forget how proud I was the first time I bought some stuff wholesale. And I literally took out a check, filled it out, and signed it. And then, of course, I had to write my little stub, what I was all about, what it was for, and handed it to the guy. And the guy looked at me and said, first thing he said, very first check is this thing good? Well, I said, of course it's good. The banker told me don't overdraft the account. I wouldn't be giving you a bad check. I was pretty naive. So what was it like in those days? Relatively straightforward and easy. You got to know a banker. You got to talk to people. When I needed to go out and do a big purchase, I would go in and talk to the banker and tell them I'm going to write a bigger check. Things are going to happen. Here's how I'm going to get the money into the account. Here's when this is going to happen. None of that, for the most part, today is really possible. But that's what it was in those days. And we'll talk about the challenge of trying to open it. In just the last few weeks, I've opened 2 accounts for this business venture I'm in. And I got to tell you, it was, wow. Okay. All right. That's what it was like to open it the first time.
All right. So I'll let you elaborate. So what are the traps of opening a business account today?
So I show up at a big bank, think of one of the big 5 banks, and I actually have other accounts with them. And I say, by the way, I have followed your instructions because they give you detailed instructions. We need articles of incorporation. We need to see that you have a business permit to do, that you're up to date on your licensing and that you're, all of that. I bring all of that to the bank and I hand it to them. And I said, here you go. And the woman goes through and she goes, okay, we need an address. And the address that I use is the address of my resident agent. And she goes, I'm going to reject it. And I said, what do you mean? It's a real address. No, it's not. Not according to the banking industry. Post office boxes, private mail boxes, resident agents, mail forwarding service people. None of those are real addresses. I said, okay. Now understand that I have been doing that resident agent mail forwarding service address for 20 plus years without ever having a glitch. And she said, nope. And I said, okay, I need to see the rules, which of course she did not have, because what bankers do is bankers tell you things and then you are on your own. So that's what happened. I was thwarted at that point in time, and now I had to go do some research. So that is one of the things I did is I called up my researcher who researches things like this, legal things, cheaper than a lawyer, but not a lawyer. And he went out and he found the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation's new rules within the last 18 months. So for all of you out there who say, Trump gave everything away, nope. the FDIC under him institute new rules. And of course, this is because we have the gig economy. We have a lot of people who are open, floating around. And what you need is you need to have your own address. Now, she told me something which was absolutely absurd that we may get into later, but it was so shocking because, all right, let me do a quick disclaimer. I am not giving you legal or financial advice. I am telling you about the shit storm and the shit show that I went through to open up a damn account. And it's a legitimate business. It's a real business. I have at this particular top 5 bank, I have 12 accounts. So it's not like they don't know me. And I've had these accounts since the early 90s. Some of these go back that far. Anyway, doesn't matter because the rules and regulations are that you have to do this. And this is all driven, by the way, for those of you who may not be aware, that when that Patriot Act got passed back in the day, I'm a libertarian for anybody who wonders where I sit on this thing. I was opposed to that because, of course, it was all about getting terrorists. And now it's kicking my ass and kicking every business entrepreneur and business owner's ass like you wouldn't believe. So that's the problem I ran into. And yeah, there's a solution to it, but it's costing me money, which of course, when government regulation goes in, and it is a tax, every regulation there is a tax. So that's what happened. And we may talk about the solution, but again, I'm not giving you advice. I'm giving you the pain and agony of this stuff. All right, what's the next question?
Yeah. So how many business owners and entrepreneurs even know about these kinds of things?
One almost has to take out a microscope to find this. And you have to, because I actually had to hire somebody to go find the regulation. By the way, it is available on the internet. It is available from the federal government, and you can go read about it. You can go find out what they talk about. But it is, as far as being common knowledge, the answer is no. It's not well known at all. So hopefully what this does is means that you get to make more informed decisions. Let's get serious for a second here. When you are in business, you have a lot of people. So it's like if you're laying there and you have all these birds pecking on your head, bing, 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 bing. That is the environment that business people live in. If you're an entrepreneur, get used to it, because just like a bird, and I'm trying to be very kind, because you got to understand, Sandra has, she has a bird. She nurtures the bird. She's, all of those things. But I'm telling you, this is like being outside and having a bird, because here's what they do. They shit on you, they pee on you, and they peck on your little head, and they do all this kind of stuff. I would say that probably less than 5% of business owners know this. And I would guess to say that less than 10% of accountants and lawyers truly understand that the regulation has changed. You need a real physical address that they can tie you to. And here's the best part. They said, well, for proof that you are at that physical address, can you bring a utility bill? A utility bill. I mean, now I'm transported back in the day that my mother, when she would pay my father's utility bills for his rental property, would walk around with the utility bill. And since she didn't have ID, because in those days, if you didn't drive, you had different ID, she would literally pull out the utility bill and use it. Holy smokes. I mean, time machine, bring in a utility bill. Wow. So that is, I think that virtually nobody knows it. Now, having said that, that means that all of you need to know certain things. And in fact, these kinds of issues, these kinds of crazy things, this kind of stuff tells you exactly why when myself and Gabe Batista wrote this book, which, and there's 2 books, but most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to Win. We don't talk about this specifically, but I'm telling you that there's a lot of things in there that you're going to want to know. And by the way, if you think that these little rocks in the road are going to stop you, then you know what? You shouldn't be in business. You shouldn't even be thinking about being in business. In fact, I even have a better background. So go check out our Position to Win podcast. Go to positiontowinbook.com. Go check out all of those things. Books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, also available in all versions. And then we have another book, which is Remote Work for a Better World. Go check that out. And what that is, and that's only available on Amazon exclusively via Kindle. And what that does is talk about how you can actually work during the pandemic. If in fact you have ever had a bad Zoom meeting, you have not been a reader of our book. Bad on you. Go read the book. And by the way, it's 99 cents. Come on. If you can't find that in the couch cushions, you're probably not carrying enough change. So check those things out. Also, make sure if you want to post something, go do that. But there you go. So that is my commercial to you. But yes, you'll get information that you will not get other places. All right, Sandra, what is the next question that you have in your stack?
All right. So, what would be your advice to business owners and entrepreneurs in today's environment?
So my advice to everybody is that you should plan to toughen up your skin. I mean, don't put lotion on at all because you need to get calloused against these kinds of things. I mean, if you could get reptilian or, dinosaur skin, that's probably better because you're going to get all those little birds pecking on you, peeing on you, shitting on you, because that's what this environment is going to be like. Now, I am not painting it as bleak as it really is because it's pretty bleak. And it's bleak because what will happen is you will go in and the banker will say stupid things to you like, well, you know what? All you have to do is just put down your personal address. Well, that sounds good. However, there may be tax ramifications. There may be other things. You may not want to do that. You may want to have a separate, distinct business address. So what I would say to business owners and entrepreneurs in this environment is toughen up, get serious, understand that you're going to run into this stuff on an ongoing basis. And again, no one actually has all the answers. Now, for all of you who are out there who are, and maybe we should even do a raging verbalist about what I call the lawyer clingers. They cling, they cling to lawyers. Is that if you have to go to your lawyer for everything, you will go broke before you get anywhere. I'm not saying you should be your own lawyer, but I'm saying you should be smart enough to figure out what's going on. And what I did was I learned what I needed to do and I did it properly. And therefore we have our business accounts and we have done no funny business. We've done exactly what we're supposed to do, which is so important. So I would say that's what I would say to business owners, entrepreneurs, is you're going to have to deal with this. And these are problems and they're going to crop up. And if you're ever wondering about getting to a time where they're not going to crop up, there's only two times that that's going to happen. One is when the business goes totally broke, or to be less sympathetic is when, if you hear the song, because I'm a Dylan fan, knocking on heaven's door and they're closing a lid and you're inside the box, that means you don't have to worry about them anymore. Anybody else, you have to figure this out and be smart about it. Next question.
Yeah. So, is it possible to establish a good banking relationship?
And the answer to that is maybe. I actually have a small bank that I've worked with for a number of years. Now you may say, John, then why did you go out and get another bank? You always need to have more than one. Here's the rule. One is none. You always need to have backups. You always need to have things that you can do. So I have a small bank that I deal with in Northern Nevada. They're a great bank, and I've gotten to know people over time. Now they have gone through some managerial changes. They were bought out by a bigger bank. They seem to be still doing pretty good, which is, by the way, why I went out and got myself another account. So therefore, I always have a square to go to. So it is possible to develop a good banking relationship. And I'm going to tell you that what you need to do is talk to the banker, get to know the banker, and not always walk in and say, I only want to talk to the banker when I need money. People never want to lend you money when you need money. People want to get to know you and trust you and believe you. And if you can't get over those hurdles, you will find out that they will not be so keen to get things done and give you money. What they will do is they will go, well, maybe this person's a good person or not, but they have gotten to know me, and that is a good thing. Now, never, ever expect that banking relationship is going to let them stretch or break any rules. Never ask anybody to do that, because if you do, you're probably going to be disappointed. What you want them to do is to be as accommodating as possible, given the structure of the rules, because they live under a microscope of regulatory. I don't know what that even looks like. Don't even want to think about it. All right, Sandra, I think we have time for one more question.
Yes. So should entrepreneurs be optimistic given these barriers?
I know a lot of entrepreneurs who, whenever the sea changes happen and the wind blows a different way and this happens and that happens, that they get very upset. You know, they think that the world has come to an end. They think it's all over. I'll share a story. When I was selling high tech, when I first got into high tech, early 80s, and I walked in, I started selling high tech, and I found it to be exceedingly fun and exciting and all of that. Everybody who was 10, 20 years older than me looked at me and said, John, too bad someone with your talent. I felt good at that point in time. And then they said, missed the best years of high tech. The best years were the 60s. The best year were the 70s. It's over. You know, it's all wrapping up. It's all going to be done. Now, imagine that the PC had barely even got launched when I started selling tech, and they thought it was over. Every one of you should be optimistic, because it gets back to a very important reality. You have to play the hand you're dealt. The hand that we're all dealt is that we have to live with these issues, have to live with these barriers. We have to work within that framework, and we have to understand that this is the way the world works, and we can make money in spite of all that. See, it's really easy to have excuses that stop you from going out and doing things. You have to have the toughness. Like I said, you got to be tough. You got to be persistent. And most importantly, you have to be smart about what you do. If you do those things, my belief is that you will be more successful than your competitors and those who, in fact, just sit around and complain and moan. It's really simple. You can either make money, or you can either bitch or moan or make money, but you can't do both. So which one do you want to do? You want to complain? Go do that. You want to make money? Go do that. And the most important thing is never let these kinds of issues, problems, so overweigh your mind that you, in fact, want to stop doing what you believe is your passion. If this is your passion, then you have to be willing to do whatever it takes, for how long it takes, until you get it there and get it done right. Do that, and I think you'll be very successful. What I hope that you've gotten from this Raging Verbalist and this Raging Verbalist episode is that the most important thing about the banking is that it's a pain in the ass right now. So figure out what you need to do, go out and do it, and make sure that you do it right. And most importantly, never let these kinds of barriers stop you from pursuing your dream. The only one who can stop you should always be yourself. Now, I know you're going to say, but John, there's all kinds of other things. Make up whatever list you want to make up. But I can tell you that every single one of those things is surmountable as long as you have a good plan, a solid belief in what you're trying to do, and most importantly, have positioned yourself to win, because that is what it's all about. If not, you'll become one of the many casualties, the 80, 90% who failed in the first 5 minutes. And it just took them 3 to 5 years to realize it. So with that, I want to thank Sandra, who has been here, of course, asking the questions and providing us with her wonderful laugh. And I am John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling and the Raging Verbalist. is now done.